Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Guys, how we doing?
I'm good.
Yet another break for you, Lakers.
We don't get a break.
Now it's going to go 7 games, Oklahoma City and Houston. They're going to be worn out. If you're like, they get to rest and have pizza parties. They had a big pizza party.
What
Were
game,
you there?
If
you probably went down.
If you don't mind me asking, what game is it tonight for the Nuggets and the Jazz?
Who cares?
Oh, no.
How many favorites of the Lakers now? We don't have pizza parties.
It doesn't always work that way when you're resting. Guys, we got a lot to get to today, so let's get to it. Russell Westbrook hasn't been himself since returning for the Rockets. He was able to score 17 last night in Game 6 after only 7 in his Game 5 return, but this time it was in a losing effort. Down only 2 with under 10 seconds left. Westbrook drove, made a bad pass that went out of bounds, led to OKC Ball, who would go on to win by 4 and force a Game 7. Shannon, did Russell Westbrook lose the game for the Rockets?
I think we need to give Chris Paul credit for willing his team to win. Skip in the fourth quarter, he was magnificent. And we give a lot of guys credit for a mid-range game, but Chris Paul gets to that elbow, you're in trouble. He did a number on Covington. He had a 3 on Covington, Skip, and going back up the court. Yeah, that was a nice try, though, bro. Got James Harden. Skip, yep. I think the thing is for Chris Paul, we know what he does, Skip, as far as he's president of the NBA Players Association. But I think he takes that same mentality to his team.
Yep.
And Skip, they ain't got, first of all, I'm watching them play. I'm like, how in the hell are y'all even in the playoffs? When you really look at them to a man, Skip, they got no business in no playoffs. They're not better than Portland. Portland should have a better record. When you look at Dame, CJ, you look at Whiteside, you look at Melo, there's no way. That's got to be Chris Paul. He's not playing.
Wait a minute. Gallinari? Schroeder?
Man, stop playing.
Gilgeous-Alexander?
Skip, stop playing.
There's some talent out there.
Man, stop playing.
Not. So, hey, Steven Adams is a pretty credible big man.
There's nobody you taking on that team over CJ and Dame.
Well, you could argue Chris Paul.
But Chris Paul over CJ, not Dame.
Did you hear Chris Paul talking about Schroeder after the game?
Yes.
He's got that dog. I want to go to war with him.
Skip,
Listen, Schroeder is a 6-man, just lights you up. He plays so hard, he's electric.
But Chris Paul, what he was able to do in the fourth quarter with those 15 big points, he was perfect from the three-point line. When his teammates were struggling, he found a way to get the ball in his hands, get to his spot, put the ball in the bucket. Let's look. Russ is trying to get back. He's trying to play his way back into conditioning, and he turned the ball over. Now, he played better on an offensive standpoint than he did in his first game back, Skip. He was 3 of 13, didn't play particularly well. Yesterday, those turnovers really hurt, especially that last one probably doomed him in the ball game.
Well, probably.
Yeah. But, Skip, I mean, you have to get him down. He's trying to play his way back. Remember how Trez looked his first couple of games back? He didn't look like the Trez that had left. Russ does not look like the guy that had before he got injured. So you got to take that in consideration. People think that, oh, you get hurt, he's great. He's just going to come back and pick right up where he left off. That's not how it works in pro sports. So I want to give Chris Paul credit as opposed to just blaming Russ. Russ didn't play well. But in the fourth quarter, Chris Paul played unbelievable. Gallinari did hit some big shots down the stretch. But I think the biggest thing they did, Skip, is that they kept James Harden off the foul line. And we said, well, James Harden, he still shot 8. He normally shoots 18. And I think that's the key for the Rockets. They're going to make some shots, but you can't get discouraged. Covington hit some big threes. James Harden is at the buzzer, Skip, stepping back almost out of bounds, nailing threes. But I think the biggest thing for OKC, they didn't get discouraged. And when the Rockets had the ball up by 6 with like 3 minutes to go, I'm like, man, this thing over. And the next thing you know, they miss. And here comes Chris Paul dancing. He's dancing, and they win the ball game. But instead of blaming Russ, I think we should highlight Chris Paul.
I have tried my whole career to love Russell Westbrook because he plays so hard every play.
Sometimes too hard.
You can argue. Last night, too hard, trying to do too much, trying to take over the game when you have a running mate he's pretty good, this guy Harden, who became an afterthought down the stretch. last night, I'm going to give Chris Paul lots of credit because you're right. He willed his team to this victory. But the door was left wide open again and again and again by Russell Westbrook, which I've called him before, and he'll turn into Westbrook when you least expect it and least need him to. And he turns into that hell on wheels, whirling dervish. Get out of my way. I'm going to do it all. And it's hard to win basketball games against good teams, well-coached teams who play just as hard as you're playing. Yes. It's hard to win as a solo act, and he only knows solo act. In a good way, for the most part, he plays egomaniacal basketball, and it's still, as you know, it's a team game.
It is.
And when you're only 6'3", it's hard for you to be just a solo act. And in the end, I still wonder, I ask myself every night I watch him, is he playing for him or for them? Is he playing to win it or to stat it? Is it about the stat? 3 straight years in Oklahoma City as a solo act, he averaged a triple-double.
Yes.
That's preposterous. That's we thought that impossible.
Yeah, we thought Big O was no one could do what he did.
No way, and he did it 3 straight years because he played so much harder than everybody else, chasing down 50-50 loose ball rebounds.
Yes.
And he got it in his head, oh, if I get to the cup and at the last second I leave it for Steven Adams, I get an assist. And they start to pile up, and I can average 10 assists, and I can lead the league in scoring and assists.
Right.
But last night, he turned back into Russell East, West, North, and South Brook because he's going every direction at once, 1,000 miles an hour. His body looks like it's completely out of control.
He did look like he was out of control a lot last night.
Just out of control with no plan. And obviously, if you leave your feet in basketball with the ball in your hands and you don't have a plan, bad things are going to happen. Because if your feet come back down, you travel, and at the last second, you're like, I should do what? I don't know what to do, so I'll just throw it out of bounds.
Right.
Which basically happened on the last play. So before I get to the last play, I'm going to say this, because this is what I slept on and what this game left me with. I've rooted for these guys all year because they incredibly, Russ and James love each other so much because they're both Southern California kids from the L.A. area where we're sitting right now. That for once they had enough respect for each other that they will defer. They will take turns, like happily take turns, where they seem unconcerned. Maybe behind the scenes they're going at it. I don't know, but it looks like they've done pretty well, and yet they went 44-28, which tied with, guess who? The Thunder. And I didn't see the Thunder coming. I thought they were rebuilding. I thought they had a stockpile of draft choices, and it felt like Houston had finally given up on CP3 because he's always hurt. He's always pulling something at the worst moment. Big time. We're up 3-1 on Golden State in 2018 conference finals, and he pulls a hamstring for games 6 and 7, and you're out. Right? So it felt like Daryl Morey in Houston, the GM, finally said, I can't take this anymore. I can't trust your health. I'm going to go with Westbrook because he and James are close, and they obviously grew up together in Oklahoma City also, not just L.A. And I'm shipping you out to that last outpost. It's my hometown, Oklahoma City, so I can say that. But it felt like you sort of get shipped to the NBA Siberia. You know, you're up there with the Thunder, and there's nothing left in the cupboard up there. All the stars are gone.
Because remember, they traded Paul George also.
They did.
So
they've had Durant, and they've had Harden, and they've had Russ and Paul George, and now it looked like CP3 or bust, right? Or else. And he has been on a mission all year long to show them that they were wrong. And he led this league in what are called clutch points, which is just impossible. That he's only like 6 feet tall. And he did that. It's the best. I can argue from start to finish it was the best year of his career. And last night you can argue was the best playoff game of his career because to your point, he just flat out took it over.
He did.
But I still say the door got left open. And my biggest point about the Rockets right now is I believe they would have been better off in this series if he had not come back. Now, if they happen to win this series and get to your team next,
Right.
you need stars versus stars.
Right.
You need star power.
Right.
You need James and Russ versus LeBron and AD.
Right.
Just on, I'm not saying I would pick them to win, but you need magnitude.
Yeah.
You need two guys who are not afraid of the other two guys because it is a star power game in the end. But this is a coach's game here. This is a defensive struggle. This is whose will prevail. And in this game, do you realize what happened without Russell Westbrook? Do you realize in the first 3 games, they had him dead to rights? It should have been 3-0. No, 3-0, you could argue.
Oh, yeah, when they got back into the overtime game, I'm like,
okay, remember, they basically blew him out the first 2 games.
Right.
That's no Russ,
Right.
just James, being James, and the Rockets being the Rockets because they play hard defense.
Right.
They'll play a little zone, but they'll play some hard man-to-man, and they steal the ball, and they disrupt you, and they get up in you, and they get after you the way we're going to talk about the Miami Heat in a minute. But they play like the Heat play on defense. But in the end, they had the third game won. Daniel House goes to the free throw line, and if he makes the second free throw, I think they're going to win.
Yep.
And he missed it. So the game was tied, and then Chris Paul did a little up and under reverse and left it a little short at the buzzer, and it goes to overtime, and Oklahoma City blew him out in overtime. Okay, what if Daniel House makes the second free throw and it's 3-0?
Right, yeah.
Well, I think the Rockets are going to be okay. And then game 4 was fairly close, but they led, the Rockets led 108-107 with 141 left and lost that game down the stretch.
Right.
Well, here comes Russ back for game 5 and 6. And nothing good is happening because let's look at last night. You said you thought it was over there for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 4:19 is left in this game. It's a 6-point Rocket lead, and the Rockets have the ball. Okay, can you get that home? You've got James and Russ.
Right.
2 stars to 1 star on the other side. Good team on the other side, but you got 2 to 1.
Right.
Can the 2 mesh? Can they figure out how to get this one home? Well, James comes down and misses a fairly contested 3. And then Russ comes down the next possession and misses a driving layup, okay? Then CP3, to his credit, he steals the ball from James first. That's at 2:33. Then Eric Gordon misses a 3, and then CP3 comes right back and steals it from Russ. So he's got 2 huge steals, and meanwhile, you know what's happening. He hits the 2 dancing threes that you talked about. And then now we're to this. Let's look at this real quick. This is the closing stretch. So Russell Westbrook does one good thing in the last 4:19. He drives it home with a right-handed power layup, and then he stops.
109.
Yeah, 109, and he stops to kind of beat his chest about it and say, "Look at me, I did that." He's given it to the sideline, and he doesn't hustle back on defense. And Schroeder, he's not quite set, and Schroeder just goes right by him and lays it up because he's so focused to me. I did that. Well, it's not enough, and the game's suddenly tied again. And then he comes down the next possession and goes up and shoots. That missed by 2 feet short.
Yeah, it wasn't close.
That's a West brick. That is terrible. It takes the heart out of your team, and it left them with a short clock, and James has a contested 3 at the clock and misses it badly. And now that brings us to the last possession. So Chris makes his 2 free throws.
Yes.
More power to him because he can do that.
Right.
Okay, help me out on this last possession, please. You have James Harden, who can be, by all accounts, as unstoppable an offensive threat as we've ever seen, maybe in the history of the game. Is there a better one-on-one player than James Harden?
Not currently.
I don't think so. You can argue ever on the perimeter.
Right.
Jordan was better. Kobe's better. Full all court.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about as a perimeter player.
Yeah, he can.
It's just hard to deal with him because he can do 2 things. He can step back and he can go right by you and lay it up with either hand.
Yep.
And he's got great slither through the lane to slither.
And you finally me going to the free throw line,
he's going to make them because he's about a 90% free throw shooter. So what were they doing? Russ takes the ball up the floor.
Right.
And James goes and tries to pick for him.
Right.
But it's a disaster. It's like a traffic jam of bodies in the middle of the floor. And Russ realizes that Chris Paul has come completely off P.J. Tucker, who goes completely to the other corner. He just leaves him.
Right.
So you could have had that shot all day. You got a wide open 3 there to win the game.
Skip, I'm watching this play unfold. If you look, and I'm thinking Chris Paul is getting picked, and so he's going to go meet Russ at the rim. He immediately goes to Covington because he knows that's what Russ wants to do. And Russ throws it away.
First, I thought he cut off Russ.
Yes, but if you
Chris did it all. He sort of guarded the whole play.
If you watch him skip, he immediately takes off to Covington.
He did.
Look at no hesitation.
I got it. He was all over that play from the start. Because remember, originally he's on P.J. Tucker, who comes to the near corner.
Right.
And he just camped over there.
He's like, you're not passing to PJ.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess he just said, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's Russell Westbrook and James Harden, and one of those two guys is going to shoot it. So you start off the play, and you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's on Russ coming up the court, and then there's kind of a weak pick by James Harden, who's not exactly a pick artist, right? Is that what he does?
No, that's...
And they said after the game, that's the D'Antoni said that's what they wanted to do.
Right.
What is it?
What is they?
So is Russ are they gonna switch men? Because Dort was originally on James, who's pretty strong and solid as a rookie out of Arizona State.
Well, Skip, I'm looking at the play. Covington had it going from the 3.
Yep.
And so I think Covington was going to take that last shot. Now, I don't know, do I want Covington or James?
That was the plan.
Because Harden picked Russ, because he didn't even drop the okay. If Harden picks, he drops the ball off to Harden. Okay, but he doesn't even look at Harden. Harden says the pick, and his mind is made up. He's throwing this ball back to Covington.
Well, it looked like he realized Chris Paul is in my way, and I got nowhere to go.
Right.
Plus, it's a traffic jam of bodies in the lane.
Yes.
There was no lane for him to take.
Correct.
And again, Russell's only 6'3", so he can't go up at the rim and just own the rim.
I think in a situation like that, Skip, I want James Harden to have the ball in his hand on the last possession.
And he's going to have to, with that little time left, he's going to have to dribble the ball.
I want James Harden to have the ball in his possession, and that's not a knock on Russ because Russ is also a former MVP. But in that situation like that, I want James Harden to have the ball, and I need James to make a more concerted effort to get the ball on one of those 3 last possessions. For him not to have the ball in his hands. And I'm not just talking about skipping that bailout that you mentioned. He shot a late shot clock. You know, I need him to have the ball with some time in his hand. I'm going to trust him. He's going to make the right play or he's going to get fouled. I need James Harden to do that. Russ last night, and sometimes Russ he's out of control, Skip. He tries to do too much. He's a great player, but sometimes you can do too much. We didn't need him in that situation, Skip, to be Hercules. Let someone else help you do some lifting. And I just thought in that situation, he got caught in between. Came off the pick, and he's like, okay, let me just kick it back to Covington. And Covington was like, okay. But I'm going to give Chris Paul.
Well, he didn't even kick it to Covington. He kicked
it out of bounds.
Kicked it out of bounds because he didn't have a plan.
Chris Paul was over that play from the jump because, Skip, he runs around, like you said, P.J. Tucker's going to camp in the left corner. And he's like, man, they're not going to pass you this ball. Let me go around just in case he tries to get, I'm going to cut him off. But I'm going, this is unbelievable, Skip. He takes off immediately and goes to Covington. He knows what's up. So clearly, they've run this play before, and CP3 diagnosed it, and immediately he goes to Covington and he gets the turnover.
Well, obviously, he's been playing for the Rockets, so he kind of knows their mindset on these plays.
Right? Exactly. Touche. Right.
But I look at the box score, and once again, the Rockets made 15 threes to just 12 for Oklahoma City. And usually when that happens, you're okay. You're right in the thick of it. And they did. They had a chance to win. But it's hard to overcome 7 turnovers by Russell Westbrook.
5 by Harden. They had 22. Ooh. But here's the thing, Skip. This is what you can't happen. If you're a high turnover team, you can't get pounded on the glass. And because they're so small, their tallest guy is probably Covington at, what, 6'7", 6'8"?
Yeah.
They're going to lose the rebounding battle. Well, if you...
It wasn't terrible. They lost by 10.
But, Skip, if you lose that and you turn the ball over 20-plus times...
Yep.
Because what you're doing, you're allowing teams, first of all, you're allowing them to get second chance opportunities, and you're giving up free possessions because you're not even getting a crack at the rim.
Yep.
So now you're doing double harm to yourself. Yeah. But I'm still taking the Rockets in Game 7.
Are you?
Yeah.
You want a piece of the Rockets? Is that what you want?
Oh, there you go.
Well, do you?
Skip, I want whoever.
I still say the Rockets would give you a much tougher test than the Thunder. The Thunder will get exposed like Portland got exposed, where they're playing over their heads. And Chris Paul, that's He maxed out last night. I don't know if you can play a better fourth quarter on offense and defense than he played.
Give him credit, Skip. Remember, in game, 5, they lost by 43.
Yeah.
And somehow he regrouped that team.
Yeah.
And down late in the ball game, they found a way to rally and win. That's Chris Paul. Yeah. That ain't coaching. That's Chris Paul. That's the coach on the court. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So hold on. You try to say, so what you saying? The Rockets going to beat the Lakers?
I just think it would get interesting.
Interesting?
Yeah, because they play much better defense than you have given them credit all year long. They are credible on defense now, and I never thought I would say that about a D'Antoni coach team because it's really Coach Antoni. There's no D in D'Antoni.
They don't. So what are they going to do with? What are they going to do with AD? What are they going to do with AD?
Let him beat himself.
Oh, you really? Oh, that's what you? Well, let him beat himself like Whiteside and Nurkic did.
You know what? Covington will give him trouble. He would give him trouble.
Okay, so if you put him on Covington, who's going to do something with him?
Covington's an all-defensive player. You get that, don't you?
He ain't no all-defensive player on 6'10 and a half.
Yeah, and the other thing they do, they will switch to zone, and they will play the hell out of you on zone. It'll be all over the place. It'll be a mad scramble, and you can't find somebody.
And LeBron will get to the middle and lob it up, and JaVale McGee will have like 12 dunks.
Okay, who's going to stop James? Who's going to stop Russ from getting to the basket?
We'll let Russ. Okay. So it sounds like to me, you're trying to proposition me for a bet.
All it needs is for them to have 4 games of hot shooting threes.
Wow.
That's all you need, and you're done.
Okay, so what if we have 4 games of hot shooting?
Well, you're going to need them.
No, we're going to need them,
Yep.
huh? We need 4 games of hot shooting, huh?
I believe the Rockets could take you at least 7 games, and the other team, it's going to be over fast. Maybe 5. Maybe Oklahoma City could win 1 game. Maybe.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, and then maybe we can get a little wager going.
Okay. Game 7 is a huge legacy game for Russell Westbrook. After that disaster last night, and if you look back at his career in the playoffs, he needs to rise and shine in Game 7.
Well, he hadn't been very good in elimination games.
He is.
No mercy.
Well, guys, we need to talk about Miami. The Heat remain undefeated in the playoffs by shocking the Bucks Game 1 last night. From the beginning, Jimmy Butler outplayed Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks star ended the night with 18 points, his fewest this postseason. Meanwhile, Butler dropped a career playoff high 40 points, with 14 of them coming in the fourth quarter. So, Shannon, here's the question. Are the Heat going to win this series?
I've always expected this series to go 7 games, but I'm still going to ride with the Bucks, Skip. I think the Bucks will learn from their mistakes and what they did. I think the thing is, what Miami, Skip, is that they play zone almost like a college team. And, you might see an NBA team switch up for a zone, maybe 1 or 2 possessions, but they're in that half the game. And they force you to make shots from the outside. And if you cannot make shots outside, they build that wall, and they're not letting Giannis cross it. And when they put him on the foul line, he was 4-12. Skip, at the end, the difference in this ball game is as simple as this. Yeah, you want to be able to move the ball free-flowing, but you better have a guy that can make shots, can go get his own shot down the stretch and get you a bucket. And that's what Jimmy Butler was able to do last night. And he felt it. He was pulling up with 3, and Jimmy is a guy that normally goes to the rim, get fouled, but he had that mid-range cooking. And then he was pulling up from 3. Middleton couldn't do anything with him. No one could do anything with him. And when a guy gets going like that, you just look at your coach, you're like, what you want me to do? You see I'm all up in him. I'm 26 feet out here, and he's pulling up on me. And then he's taking me off the bounce mid-range. So I don't really know what you want me to do, Coach. Just start preparing for the next game. And so we can come up with a better plan. Maybe we need to trap him and get the ball out of his hands. The Bucks, they haven't really looked like the Bucks the entire time they've been in the bubble.
Thank you. Agreed.
And so I don't know, and Skip, we talk about who did it hurt or help.
Distraction.
Maybe it hurt them.
Well, it was in their backyard.
Because the timing, Skip, and even before what transpired, Skip, with Jacob Blake, they weren't looking good. Because remember, they lost the first game against Orlando before this transpired, and they haven't looked good. Giannis has played well. He's getting 30 and 15 and 5. But they haven't looked good overall as a team. They haven't shot it, and Bledsoe had something to do with that. I think he's one of their guys. They really need him. But give Jimmy credit. Give the Heat credit, Skip. The one thing you know about the Miami Heat, they're going to play hard. They're going to play hard for 48 minutes. They got guys that on the defensive end, they're going to get after you. And then if they need to play man, they got Big Bam, who finished second in the most improved players. He was unbelievable on the boards. So they got the work cut out for him because Miami has always felt they could beat this team. They're not in awe of this team. They don't fear this team. They're not in awe of Giannis. They don't fear Giannis. No. They believe they can beat the Bucks. The Bucks got their hands full, Skip. They got their hands full with this one because they got the right one. They got a mindset, and they got a guy named Jimmy Butler that doesn't back down from anyone.
So I will be the first to confess on national TV, I chickened out on this series. I kept telling you all last week, I kept saying, I'm leaning to the Heat. Are you going to pick the Heat? Well, I'm going to wait until the last day. And truth be told, we didn't get to the topic at the end of the show we were going to do, which was pick this series because we had other things breaking yesterday. And I had written on my sheet, I was going to pick, like you, Bucks in 7. And then I watched that last night, and I was kicking myself because I do believe the Heat will win this series. I do believe the Bucks will once again be dispensed ahead of a finals that a lot of people favor them to not only win, but at least to win the East.
This would be awful for Giannis.
It would be awful for Giannis. So this last night was about what one man did and one man couldn't do. It was about a Jimmy Butler. I've told you, I've said it from day one about him. I want him in my foxhole. He's as mentally and physically tough a player as there is in all of basketball. I'm not saying he's a top 5 player because he's not. And by the way, it just dawned on me, we're going back and forth about where does Luka rank? Is he easily top 5, as Jeff Van Gundy had said on Sunday afternoon? And I'm going down my 5. I'm getting all the way to 16 or 20, and I forgot about Jimmy Butler because he can be forgettable because he's not going to put up big numbers.
No.
He averaged 20, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. Not bad, but he shot from 3 24% this year. He's a horrible three-point shooter on a team that finished second, barely, to Utah in three-point shooting percentage. So they live and die with the 3, but they're not like Houston. They make a bunch. They take medium and make a bunch. Okay?
Skip, I think the biggest thing for Jimmy Butler, he needed to be on the right team. Everybody can't take Jimmy.
No.
Minnesota couldn't take Jimmy. And he couldn't take Philly because he didn't think they took it serious enough.
I agree.
So Miami is the perfect place for him.
And he chose it.
Yes.
He said, I want that.
Yes.
Because I love the GM and the president, Pat Riley, obviously, and I love the coach, and I love the fabric. And Eric Spoelstra said after the game, he just fits everything about us, our fabric, who we are. Well, what did Jimmy say after the game? We got a bunch of dogs, and Pat and Coach Spo put all those dogs out there around me, and it works because they feed off his mentality. But he made the point, and this is Coach Spo ended his quote here. He happened to score tonight, but he's a very unselfish player. It's not just about him scoring the basketball. It's not.
No.
Some nights he doesn't score much at all. As Jimmy said, it's about guarding. It's about making the right play, getting 50-50 balls. That's how you win basketball games. Okay, well, that's the flip side of what we were talking about Russell Westbrook. Russell needs stats. He needs to look at that line and say, I triple-doubled again. And Jimmy doesn't care about triple-doubles.
You have to find, Jimmy can find value in something other than scoring. And there are very few guys because, Skip, we put so much emphasis. Oh, he had 40. Oh, he had 50. He got 60. So Jimmy has found a way to impact the ball game. And if he doesn't score 40, if he doesn't score 30. And, Skip, I think that, but at the end of the day, Skip, when you look at this game was nip and tuck. Miami had a guy in Jimmy Butler that could go get buckets. You can pass the ball all you want to, but when the rubber needs to meet the road, you better have a guy that can go one-on-one and go get you a bucket. And the team that can do that consistently is the team that will win.
I agree. And Dragic got a bunch of buckets for a while.
He crafty with that left hand. that left, he can get you.
He can do this in the playoffs. He once had a game when he was in Phoenix against my Spurs when they were the Spurs. Where he can go crazy hot where you can't stop him. And then Jimmy Butler went Jimmy Buckets, which doesn't always happen. Then the kid Tyler Hero, he steps up and he goes hero at the end and makes a huge three. That was the dagger.
for a rookie to take that shot.
Okay, and look what they've just done. They swept a team that was a little better in the regular season than they were.
Yeah.
They swept Indiana, and they won decisively all 4 games. They averaged winning by 10.5. Yeah.
Probably cost Nate McMillan his job.
It probably did. Well, it did.
Yeah.
And last night, they beat the prohibitive favorite in the East by 11. So they've now won 5 straight playoff games by around 11 points a game. Well, are you looking? Are you awake yet? Are you sleeping? Are you still sleeping on the Heat?
No, Skip. I think the Heat had the Bucks' undivided attention because they had already beat them. So they know what they represent. And see, the thing is about the playoff, Skip, it's not like, okay, we got Giannis tonight, we got LeBron, we got KD, we got... No. We got you for 7 games. We got you for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And all our attention goes to you. So this is what so they can really hone in. And that's what, you remember last year, Skip, Toronto. Toronto lost the first 2 games to them. And then they honed in and said, nah, we got to build this wall. If we keep Giannis out of the paint, if we make him shoot jump shots, and that's the thing that he's going to have to keep building on, Skip, because people are not going to let you Euro step them in the playoffs and dunk every time or lay the ball up. You're going to have to find a mid-range game, and you better start making them free throws, because teams will foul you and put you on the line 20 times, and you up there making 7 or 8 out of 20, you're going to lose.
So to your point, we're about to see Giannis do something only 2 other former superstars, 2 all-time greats have done, and that's win Defensive Player of the Year and then win MVP in the same season.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan did it. Hakeem Olajuwon did it. Giannis is about, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact he's going to be the MVP, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be the MVP, right?
Yes.
That's extraordinary. Yes. That's all time.
Right.
But when the playoffs start, especially when they start to heat up against a well-coached team with some mental toughness and a plan, he starts to shrink and disappear.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's overrated. I keep waiting to say, oh, I want to embrace him. I want to give him a big superstar hug, an all-time great hug, because he's doing all-time great things in regular seasons.
Yes.
Well, to your point, they trounced Toronto with Kawhi, obviously, as the leader last year twice to start it off. And then they lost 4 straight to Toronto. What happened? We built a wall on Giannis.
Yes.
With Gasol and Kawhi and
Siakam,
and length, Ibaka, right? So they got linked inside, and they go shoulder to shoulder. You can't come in here. Well, you just pointed out that's what they did last night. So in the 4th quarters and overtimes of those last 4 games, Giannis shot 35% from the floor. He's a 55% shooter in the regular season because he can just finger roll like Wilt Chamberlain to the rim.
So they say we're not going to let you finger roll.
You can't do it. And he shoots 35%. And then to your point, in those 4th quarters, he shot 5 of 13 free throws, made 5 of 13. Well, you're going to lose if your superstar is under 50.
Because they're just going to foul you and put you on the line.
And he really didn't shoot that many. He couldn't even get to the line, and when he did, he was a disaster. Well, I'm seeing the same thing start out last night. 4th quarter last night, Giannis went 1 of 4. That won't work. 0 of 2 from 3. That really won't work. 1 of 4 from the free throw line. Done.
No.
And 2 turnovers. On top of all that, you turn it over twice, and they had like a little glimpse of a chance at the end with 50 seconds left. They were down 7, and if they could have gotten a bucket, maybe they'd make it a ball game. And Dragic, as Giannis wheeled into the lane, Dragic just took it right out of his hand.
And Skip, the thing is, Giannis can't be your 3rd leading scorer. And I understand that Middleton, Lopez had a good game, and Middleton was hot in the first half. But your MVP can't be your 3rd leading scorer. Not against this team. He's going to have to dominate. Now, I'm not going to be surprised if Kyle Korver plays more because they got to open up the floor. They got to get somebody.
Without him last night, they would have gotten blown out.
Skip, because they got to have somebody that can make outside shots to keep them from packing it in.
I'm going to read this quote one more time. Jimmy Butler says, Coach Pat and Spo do a great job of putting some dogs on the floor who just want to compete. That's what I see every time I watch the Miami Heat. That's why I love watching them play basketball. They're doing it not only the right way, but the tough way, and it's all because Jimmy Butler plays the right kind of basketball.
Skip, it's like what we talked about with Mike. Everybody couldn't be a teammate of Mike. Everybody can't be a teammate of Jimmy Butler. And you have
You're talking about Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. So, Skip, you have to understand what he is.
That's true. There's some comparison there. I agree.
Because he went to Because think about what he had in Minnesota, Skip. He had Karl Anthony Towns. Remember, for a couple of years, general manager says, if I had to build a team right now, I'll start my team with Cat.
And Wiggins.
So they had Cat and they had Andrew Wiggins. He said, man, y'all soft. He said, I took the backups and beat you guys. And then he went to Philly, and Philly was a great situation. You got Joel Embiid, all-star, all-NBA player. You got Ben Simmons and all.
I love that team.
And he said, nah, y'all ain't serious enough for me.
No.
Y'all don't take it serious enough. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere where I know they're going to be serious, because Pat Riley's not going to have it any other way but serious. And Coach Spo is going to coach it serious. Let me go on down here to Miami.
And by the way, he had his opportunity to go LeBron AD in L.A. Nope, I want to go do it my way.
Yes.
South Beach.
Skip, but he came up under Thibodeau, Coach Tibbs.
Yep.
Who's hard-nosed, in-your-face, defense, defense, defense. So, Skip, that's really all he knows.
Yep.
He knows when everything else, because he played on a team with D. Rose, and they had Taj Gibson, they had Joakim Noah. They had a bunch of guys, Skip.
Yep.
And he's like, you know what? As long as we share and we do this all, everybody eat. But now, Skip, it's now that, you know, man, I'm a top 5 player. If I go out here drop 30 a game, everybody gonna be talking about me, but I'm top 5, but you ain't winning.
Jimmy has little to no superstar ego. He doesn't play that game.
No.
Do you guys see what D-Wade tweeted about Jimmy, too? I loved this. He said, hello, everyone. If you haven't met playoff Jimmy, you're welcome.
Oh, that playoff Jay?
D-Wade excited about what we're about to see and continue to watch from Jimmy. I want to talk about the Cowboys. It puts me in a good mood to talk CeeDee Lamb, so let's do that. During an interview, Jerry Jones admitted that CeeDee Lamb was not at the top of their draft board when it was their time to pick. While the team was targeting a defensive end, which one of his grandsons approved of, Jones admitted that when CeeDee fell to Dallas, it was his other grandson that pointed out the receiver's production that caught his attention. Jerry also admitted he thought it was an omen since CeeDee's last name, Lamb, was the same as one of Jerry's former college teammates who had recently passed away. And I know we had mentioned that connection months ago when this all came down. So, Skip, I want your opinion here. How does this make you feel about your team's draft process?
Yeah, how does that make you feel, Skip?
Grandsons.
Shannon Sharpe. When I read this story last night, I sat back and I thought, Lord, have mercy on my cowboy-loving soul. There's never been anything like this story.
No.
In the history of this league, there's never been anything like this. So Jerry Jones admits publicly, remember, he was on his yacht, because it's middle of the pandemic, virtual, and he's sitting on the couch on his billion-dollar yacht with one grandson to his right and one to his left.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they are, just like I was, I told you that day, Caleb Von Chasen. I said, every time I watch LSU, he jumps off my screen. I need him to rush the passer because I wasn't sure who we had left to rush the passer at that point.
Correct.
And he's falling, and he's falling, and he's ours. And then I look up and I think, no, CeeDee Lamb's on the board too. We got our choice. And I immediately tweeted, as much as I love Caleb Von, you have to go CeeDee here.
Right.
Little did I know, as I typed, Jerry is listening to one grandson and the other go back and forth. The first grandson says, production, Grandpa. Does he call him Grandpa?
Papa.
Yeah, Papa, yeah. Production, Papa. Production. Look at the production. Look at the production. Well, I'm good with that. I want to meet that kid. His name is Shy, because he saved me from what would have been a disaster, because you know how much I love CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
And they had him ranked 6 on their board, and they're picking at 17.
Correct.
So this is thank you, NFL gods. So he's saying production because CeeDee Lamb, as I pointed out to you all year, he led all of college football in yards per catch, 21.4 yards. Every time he caught a football, it resulted in a 21.4 yard gain. It's the Big 12. I know they don't play great defense, but it's hard to put up.
Yeah.
You know, you played virtually that position.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to do in college.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But the other grandson, who, by the way, was a sensational high school quarterback at Highland Park and just lit it up in the state playoffs. He's now at Arkansas. I don't know if he'll ever amount to much because he was probably just a great high school quarterback.
Correct.
but he's on the team at Arkansas, and he knows what was happening when they were game planning for LSU last year. It's all about blocking that Caleb guy. You got to block him first, or you got no chance. So he's arguing, Papa, you got him. You got him.
I'm telling you what we did. This is what we had the game plan for.
So Jerry admits publicly that the deciding factor was, and we've talked about this before, but he played with a guy, 1964 at Arkansas, a national championship team for which Jerry started at offensive guard. His best friend on the team was named Jerry Lamb, who was, again, they didn't throw much, but I think he caught, what was it, 16 balls for 213 yards. You probably caught 16 in a game at some point. But they didn't throw much, but they went 11-0, and that was his best friend and remained his best friend till he departed here, the earth, about...
like last year, wasn't it?
Just a few months back. And so, again, he thought it was a sign from above. Oh, Jerry Lamb, CeeDee Lamb. I'm Jerry. That's, okay, I got it. I'm going CeeDee Lamb. And it saved me from probable disaster because Caleb would have been fine, but you need that guy because you know what I think of that guy. So in the end, how do you know, it's clear that he runs the draft.
Yes.
The final say is his. Right. He picked CeeDee Lamb. He lucked into the right choice because of Jerry Lamb. This is, remember, these teams spend millions and millions of dollars to do their homework for these drafts. And it came down to, oh, I'm going to listen to the grandson who said, production papa. So
the draft process for the Cowboys is just out the window.
It's out the window. So, you know, as much as I love what they've done, and by the way, just for the record, over the last decade, somehow, thanks to Will McClay and maybe others talking Jerry off some crazy position that he has, they have the second most Pro Bowlers drafted over the last decade to Kansas City. Well, something's worked out pretty well. And how many seasons have we gone into where people said, Dallas has got the most talent in the National Football League? Well, did Jerry just kind of luck into that talent? He's just reaching for, oh, Jerry Lamb. I'll take CeeDee Lamb.
And the thing is, Skip, if you remember, because he wanted Johnny Manziel.
He did.
And Steven said, no. We're going to take an offensive lineman. And Jerry's probably thinking, you want an offensive lineman over a quarterback? In what
especially the all-time box office.
In one scenario. Skip, that just goes to show you. I guess it's a situation where Jerry said, look, and he's made it this abundantly clear, Skip, this is my team. I run it how I see fit. Because for me, what the hell are grandkids doing in the draft room anyway? They hadn't watched any tape. They have done no evaluation. But, Skip, it's like he said, it's his team. It's like people, Shannon, you let the dogs get on the bed? Yeah, it's my house, it's my bed, it's my dog, so yeah, they get on the bed. So Jerry Jones said, Skip, it's my team, I bought it, my draft room. Yeah, my grandkids gonna be in the draft room, and they can have a say in the matter.
By the way, I agree with you about dog on bed. Hazel sleeps in bed.
It's my bed. It's my dog. So, yeah,
thank you.
You ain't got to sleep in it while you worried about it. You ain't getting no dog hair on you, so be quiet. Skip. Skip, maybe you know what? It's hard for me to say throughout the history since they've been drafting players that at least somebody's grandkid or son or somebody, maybe the mailman, hasn't made a pick or had influence.
I would agree.
But they never said it publicly.
Nope.
Just because it happened, that doesn't mean you got to share everything publicly. Jerry, some things just keep for yourself. Just say, you know what? My grandson helped me make that pick. He was the deciding factor on that pick. So you know what? I'm going to keep that close to the vest. And then what did he do, Skip? Oh, yeah, I forced CeeDee Lamb to wear 88.
He did. He admitted it. Yeah, I forced him to, but we talked about that. It smelled like he did because CeeDee wanted to wear 2 because he loved DeAndre Hopkins when he was growing up.
No, he wanted 10.
I'm sorry, 10.
He wanted 10.
He wore 2.
2 in college.
10 because of DeAndre Hopkins, because he grew up in the Houston area, and that was his idol.
And you and I both came to the conclusion, Jerry is the type of guy, if I pay you a salary, I should be able to dictate what you do. Like he told Zeke, I pay Zeke. I've earned the right to be able to joke with Zeke. Well, I'm paying CeeDee Lamb. I drafted him in the first round. I'm paying him, so I should be able to tell him what number to wear. Skip, this is... if you didn't know how Jerry operated, this would be sad. But knowing how he's operated, and you've been around him for 30-plus years, you know him, you talked to him, written books about him with his help, You're not surprised by this. You put your head down like, I cannot believe this, but I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but in the end, I'm confessing this. It truly makes me wonder how this team run by this man at this age and stage of his life, where he's papa now. How can this team win a Super Bowl? As much as I would love to see one more Super Bowl for Jerry, it seems impossible. As talented as they are, if that guy's at the controls, you just know he's going to make one decision in the middle of the season that's going to go haywire, right?
Yeah, just think about this. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, they have this level of talent, and he doesn't meddle. And I'm not saying he has a Coach Belichick, but I'm saying a coach half as good as Belichick. How many Super Bowls do you think they get? If he stays out the way, if he's not opening his mouth, every microphone that they shove in front of him, every camera that they hit, the red light comes on, he's talking. If he would just stay out of the way. I'm not saying Coach, because if Coach Belichick had that team with that talent, Skip, ain't nobody winning no Super Bowls.
With that owner, with Robert Kraft.
Yeah, oh yeah. Ain't nobody winning Super Bowls.
You switch places and you took Belichick and Kraft and gave him the Dallas team.
Oh.
It's over.
Ain't no Skip. He gonna be like Coach Allback. He gonna be like Phil Jackson. He gonna have like 11 Super Bowls with that team. That team is young still. You look, that's still a young team. I mean, with the exception of Ty Smith is Ty Smith is only in year 10. Ty Smith is in year 10. Zach Martin is what, year 9. But for the most part, you look at Amari, you look at Gallup, you look at CeeDee, you look at Dak, you look at Zeke, you look at the defense. That's a young team. The only thing they keep saying, Jerry holding them back.
Well, I have to agree, because despite the fact I just spat back at you that they've had the second most Pro Bowlers over the last 10 years, they have only 3 winning seasons in 10 years.
And 3 playoff wins?
In the 10 years? 2.
Because they beat Detroit.
And then
they beat Seattle.
That's it.
So with all those Pro Bowlers.
3 playoff appearances in 10 years.
And 2
all
wins.
Those Pro Bowls.
Yes.
Yep. And you got a whole bunch of 8 and 8s in there, including last year. Well, I hate to say it, but as much as I love to talk about him, as entertained as I am by him, because this is why they're America's team still, because he's the biggest target in sports, but he's also the most entertaining owner times 100.
Yes.
Because nobody does this.
I mean, Skip, what person let's say they're in commercial real estate or they buy things, they're like, hey, I got 2 of my grandsons sitting here. Well, I like the shiny building. Well, I like the building over here. Hey, okay, let's do that one.
Okay, we'll do that one. You make a good point.
Skip, that's not how the draft process works. Normally, people that's in the draft process, they've evaluated tape, they've watched these players, they've gone to the combine, they've done all these things. So they can give you an in-depth analysis, okay, Caleb Chason versus CeeDee Lamb. Not because, hey, I think I want CeeDee Lamb.
Well, thanks to the late, great Jerry Lamb, CeeDee Lamb is now a Dallas Cowboy. Thank you.
Well, I told CeeDee, if I'm CeeDee, I was like, oh, Jerry, I'll wear that number 8A, but it's going to cost you $2 million.
Really?
Yeah. $2 million.
No mercy.
Last summer, the Rockets traded away Chris Paul to the Thunder for Russell Westbrook in hopes that it would finally help Houston make it over the hump and reach the finals. Now those two are facing off in the first round, and Chris Paul got the last laugh last night with 28 points and the win to force a Game 7. It was only Westbrook's second game this postseason, but he has scored just 24 points combined in the 2 games. And put the injury aside, Shannon, who is the better player, Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook?
Is this a trick question?
Nope.
Russ.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea where you were going with this.
Russ.
I thought you were going to say CP3.
No, because I'm not gonna overreact to 2 games. CP3 averaged this year 17 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Russ was 27, 8, and 7, playing alongside James Harden. The difference is CP3's value is more built in leadership.
Yep.
Russ is built in athletic ability, athleticism.
Yep.
There's the difference between the 2. But I'm not going to overreact to the last 2 games and say, oh, because CP3 got the better last night, he's a better player than Russ. No, that's not even close. Once Russ figured out, man, they got him jacking up all these threes because I'm here in Houston. That ain't my game. Let me play my game. Once he cut down on the threes, and he says, you know what, I can get to the rack. I'm a mid-range shooter, Skip. From mid-December until the season stopped, he was 31, 8, and 7. That's what he was averaging. So he averaged 27 points playing alongside James Harden. Skip, no, I mean, Russ is the better player, but CP3 has, his value is not only is he a great player, he also has more value in leadership. I believe, that's just me personally, I don't know either one of the guys, but I believe he's a better leader than Russ. And so in that situation, Russ is the better player. That's not even a question. But Chris Paul's value is more leadership. Russ is more athletic ability. But the question was, who's the better player? Russ.
I don't know who came up with this question, but I find it to be a tough question.
No, it ain't tough.
Yep. It was made tough.
Tough choosing between CeeDee Lamb and Caleb Chase.
Yeah. That's a tough call. It's made tougher for me because of what I've seen, not only this regular season, but what I saw last night. And I'm being a little bit a prisoner of the moment.
Yeah.
But over the years, I've been tough on CP3. I've called him at times CP0, as in 0 rings. And it just feels like he's never going to get a ring. In part because he's only 6 feet tall and he can do only so much.
He would have had one if Commissioner Stern, rest his soul, hadn't vetoed that trade to the Lakers. He'd have had a couple.
You could argue, but we'll never know. So I will also admit I've been a little biased against Chris Paul. Love the work he does for the Players Association, but it's always canceled for me by the fact he has this long history of popping opponents in the privates. Well, he does. He goes clear back to
He can go back to college.
ACC. Julius Hodge, remember that?
Yeah, you got it.
Got thrown out of the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
Just smacked him right in the midsection.
I think he got Russ last night, too.
He
That
did.
was an accident. That was an accident.
And he once got Mark Gasol at the end of an Oklahoma City Clippers Memphis series. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like he got a screw loose, you know? Like, what are you doing? You're the president of the Players Association. You have to resort to that? You want to talk about low blows. Those are low blows. And there have been times when I thought Chris Paul will be remembered more for his State Farm commercials, which are always great, more than what he does in the postseason. Well, then, very early this morning, I'm looking at their whole legacy, both of them. And obviously, as we talked about earlier, Russ went 3 straight years averaging a triple-double. It's a lot about your heart.
Right.
It's your guts. You're playing with a rage every night where you're taking every possession as seriously as anybody ever takes it. And yet, I've often wondered, is he playing to win or playing for stats? Or do you want to win or star? That's what it sort of comes down to. And I'm never sure about Russ. He always says, I just want to win. Well, then maybe you need to figure out how to win, because I still don't know if you figured it all out. And last night, he definitely had no clue. He had no plan how to get that game home. So we look at Russ. He did win an MVP. He's a 9-time All-Star. He's twice the All-Star Game MVP, which is something on your resume. So he's won 2 scoring titles and 2 assist titles.
Right.
Pretty great.
That's pretty good.
And to your point, it's about your athleticism. Yeah. Because he's not much of a shooter. You're just able to get to the rim at will. Right. And to make acrobatic shots at the rim. Right. Now let's look at Chris Paul. And this startled me because I'd lost some touch with what he's been doing, because he's a 4-time assist champ in the league. That's not bad. He's a 6-time steals champ. That's really good. Right. And he's a 9-time all-defensive team player. That's really good. Yeah. And he was an All-Star Game MVP, not bad. And he was he came up second MVP race back in 2006. I know it's a long time ago, but I remember him well against my Spurs when it was, Duncan Parker and Ginobili. They were scared to death of that Chris Paul in New Orleans. Right. Remember that guy?
He put y'all out one year.
Little pit bull that he was. Well, when he was a Clipper, he made a Game 7 shot with a pulled hamstring. Right. Well, the other problem with Chris's legacy is he always has a pulled hamstring, and too many times in crucial playoff moments, he's had a pulled hamstring. But I got to tell you, when I look at the totality.
Oh, he has an impressive resume.
Hey, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he does.
And to your point, leadership, there's no question. he wants to win.
Yes.
He knows how to keep a team together. What he pulled off in Oklahoma City this year, it's special.
Yes.
It's an all-timer.
Yeah. Skip, I think the thing is for me is that Chris Paul is an old school point guard. He is a true point guard. A lot of these other guys masquerade as point guards, but they're two guards. You look at Dame, you look at Harden, you look at Russ, you look at a lot of these guys, Skip, they're really twos.
Yeah.
They're masquerading as points. Chris Paul is a point guard in the like Magic, like Stockton, like Jason. He's an old school, assist the basketball first, I'll get my points later. These guys now, Skip, let me get my points, and then, once I get going, I try to facilitate for everyone else. But for me, Skip, I mean, you look at Russ' body of work, you mentioned the 3 straight years of triple-doubles. You look at the All-NBA teams, you look at the MVPs. It's just hard to say. He's the most athletic. It would have been interesting to see had Derrick Rose not gotten injured, because Derrick Rose was as athletic as Russ, maybe more explosive.
I'll buy that. Yep.
And so what he did, and so he was really the first explosive point guard that could do all this behind-the-head dunk and just go to the basket.
Yep.
And then Russ just elevated that.
He did.
But for me, Skip, I think Chris Paul is an unbelievable player, great player. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But Russ is a better player than he is.
So if you look at their individual playoff records, just what's your record in every playoff game you played in? Russ is 52-48.
He had a couple of years with Harden and KD up in that thing, too.
That worked, and you got to one final.
Right.
But you had some nightmarish games in the final. In fact, there was the one half after Game 2 that Magic Johnson said on ESPN at that point. It's the worst half of basketball I've ever seen a point guard have in a playoff game.
Right.
Well, that was happening. His numbers at the end of the series looked pretty good, but they got wiped out in 5 games.
Right.
LeBron's first championship, obviously. Okay, so Russ is 52-48. CP3 is 53-55. So he's also had struggles, and he had some star power around him with the Clippers, but
he ain't have what Russ had.
No.
He had KD. So I don't care who you put around Chris Paul. They ain't been KD.
Well, just that one year. And they were all I call them the baby thunder, but they were pretty young.
No, he had KD more than 1 year.
You're talking about
I'm saying for the final,
Well, at one point, they were up 3-1.
Yes.
But in the end, why did Kevin Durant leave Oklahoma City? It's because of that guy you saw last night, the out-of-control Russell Westbrook, the hell-bent in a bad way Russell Westbrook, Russell Westbrook. That's why he said, KD, I know for a fact, got this from a source very close to him, he finally decided, I can't win a championship with him as my primary decision maker because he's dribbling the ball up the floor every time. And it's either he's going to choose to take it himself or maybe he'll lob it over to me out on the wing and let me do my thing.
Right.
Well, it's not. It's why you lost a 3-1 lead over the defending champion, over Golden State.
Right.
Or were they defending champions?
Yeah, they were defending champions.
Yeah. So the point is, in the end, to answer the question, I will still barely take Russ. You're taking him like by landslide. But after what I saw last night and this year, and listen, Chris Paul is closing the gap on him. And I don't think that trade looks all so bad right now.
I think it was a great trade for both squads. For whatever reason, Chris Paul and James Harden didn't mesh like we thought they would. I mean, both need the ball, but Russ has found a way to say, you know what, hey, and like you said, maybe because they are friends, good friends off the court.
They are.
They knew each other for an extremely long period of time, and so they okay. Because, Skip, if I'm just getting there and you keep taking all these bad shots, if we're not cool, bro, I'm about to talk to you about taking all these bad shots.
Right. You got that right.
And so I think the thing is that if James take a bad shot, Russ is okay with it. Russ takes a bad shot, James is okay with it.
Okay, let's also put in perspective. Chris Paul is a great leader when he's the leader.
Yeah.
When it's all about him. And this year, he is leading a fairly young Thunder team.
Right.
If you put him with Blake Griffin at the Clippers.
Lob City.
And you're going to have issues because they clashed a lot.
Yes.
And if you put him with James Harden, they're going to clash. So I'm not sure if that undercuts.
This is his team.
This is his team. And
James Harden said, no, bro, you came here. This is my team.
Yeah. Now he's back to the New Orleans.
Right.
Or the Hornets or what?
The Pelicans. Well, yeah, it might have been the Hornets,
No, they were the Hornets.
Hornets then.
The early 2000s.
2000, right.
Because he could lead that team. but he couldn't lead James Harden, and he definitely couldn't lead Blake Griffin.
Because Blake was saying, hold on, I'm the big man.
Yeah.
A big man going to take, unless you Jordan,
Yep.
all big mans run the team.
Okay.
So, and I'm a big man. He had won the dunk competition, Skip. He was Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
He's in L.A., and so boom, 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 and it never worked. You would have thought they would have more success than what they had.
I can't wait for this Game 7 because it's Chris Paul versus Russell Westbrook legacy.
Okay.
Yeah, and Game 7s are just the best overall.
No mercy.
The Bucks have lost Game 1 in a series for the second straight time this postseason. They find themselves now down to Jimmy Butler in the red-hot Heat after Giannis had only 18 points and a plus-minus -14. Giannis said adjustments must be made heading into Game 2, and we're now joined by Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Chris, how much trouble are the Bucks in?
Well, I picked the Bucks to win this series in 7, but I was very close to going with Miami in the upset. I'll, of course, stay with my pick. But I do think an upset is possible for several reasons. Number one, where are the Bucks at mentally? Now, Miami has beaten them now 3 out of the 4 times they've played this season, including the regular season. So what are the Bucks thinking now? George Hill, their spiritual leader, he hasn't won anything. None of these guys have won anything. So Giannis is their leader. He's young. He has yet to, get to the finals and win a championship. Then you got other guys like Kyle Korver, Dante DiVincenzo, Brook Lopez, Eric Bledsoe. None of these guys has won at a high level. So where are they at when they look at the fact that, wow, this team has beaten us now 3 out of 4 times? These guys are used to being the hunters, not used to being the hunted. So I got to wonder where they're at mentally. Then what the Heat did to Giannis was not an aberration. Now, they're not going to hold him, obviously, to 18 points a game. But one game in the regular season, they held him to 13 points. My point being, they can force him to have 2 or 3 of these type of mediocre or bad games in a 7-game series. They've got guys that can guard him, and Bam Adebayo, Andre Iguodala, Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler, and they're well-coached and disciplined. So they can execute their game plan. A lot of teams have a good game plan, but then they lose, focus, and they lose it for a few minutes or a quarter or something like that, and that's enough to lose. The Heat are disciplined. So they kept Giannis out of transition, and they walled off the paint so he couldn't get those straight line drives, and you force someone else to beat you. Now, here's the thing for Milwaukee. The other guys played fairly well. Chris Middleton gave him 28. Brook Lopez gave him 24. Kyle Korver shot well from 3. They hit 16 threes and still lost. Now, if I'm the Bucks, though, you're understanding Jimmy Butler's going to get cold at some point. He didn't shoot it well all season. He's been hot from the perimeter in the playoffs, but he's probably going to come back to earth, at least on his jump shot, at some point soon. So I still got the Bucks, but this is going to be a long, tough series for them. And like I said, an upset is possible.
But see, Brook Lopez getting 25 points doesn't do anything for you. You can give him 25. You don't want Giannis getting 35 and 15. That's where the damage is done. And although Middleton had 28, he had 21 in the first half. So when they needed big buckets, when they needed quality points, nobody was there to rise and shine. And the thing is with Giannis, if you can keep Giannis off the free throw line, and even if you don't, he ain't going to make a whole bunch of them. I mean, he had that streak when they played the Lakers. Skip, remember when they played the Lakers in Milwaukee? He was, 5 of 8 from the three-point line. He was missed only one. I think he was perfect from the free throw line. That's not Giannis. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's not a good free throw shooter. And if you can keep him out of the paint, and as you mentioned, Chris, they got guys that can guard him one-on-one if they need to. Help can come, but they got guys that can wall him off. They got sturdy body guys. Crowder, you mentioned, Iggy, Bam. Bam is tough. Bam, I love Bam's game. And Jimmy Butler they have the right mix of a dog, a lead dog, and other guys that want to follow. And that's what you need. Jimmy Butler chose to go to Miami because the other stops that he had gone to, Minnesota, he's like, y'all weak, y'all sorry. Y'all got some talent, but you're sorry. He went to Philadelphia, he's like, y'all ain't taking it serious enough. Let me go somewhere where basketball means something to them. and he went to Miami and he found a home. I agree. Jimmy Butler, do I think he's going to get 40 again? I don't know if he'll get 35 again in the series, but he probably won't need to. If you can contain Giannis, they have enough guys that they can count on. Dragic, he can get buckets when they need to. And this kid, Hero, yeah, I like his game. I like a guy that's young but don't know he's young. He doesn't know. He don't even know he ain't supposed to be doing what he's doing in the NBA playoff game his rookie year.
By the way, Coach Spo let him finish.
Yes.
He closed last night.
Exactly.
Wow. So, Chris Broussard, I told Mr. Sharpe across from me for the last week, I am leaning toward picking Miami to knock off the Milwaukee Bucks. And at the last second yesterday, I chickened out and I choked and I said Bucks in 7. And I regret that because I do now believe, I'll stick with my pick, but I do believe the Heat are going to win this series. And it's going to boil down to one team is just physically and mentally tougher than the other team. One star is definitely mentally and physically tougher than the other star. And the one star is Jimmy Butler, who I always tell Shannon, I want him in my playoff foxhole. He just knows how to win, how to fight, how to do the little things that add up to big things. And he's such a great leader of this kind of team. I love watching him because they play hard and they play right. And it's a pleasure to watch how they dismantled Milwaukee in the fourth quarter last night, and it started and finished with Jimmy Buckets. But it also started and finished with Giannis. And again, he's about to do something only 2 other all-time greats have done, and that's win MVP as well as Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. Jordan did it. Olajuwon did it. Giannis is about to do it. Yet, when it comes big playoff time against a team that's well-coached and mentally and physically tough, they just say no, especially in fourth quarters to Giannis. They say, you can't come in here anymore. We will wall you off, we will frustrate you, and we will make you look ordinary and overrated. Because if you get to the free throw line, that's about all we're going to give you, and you can't make those. And look at those last 4 games last year against Toronto when they just crumbled. And in the fourth quarters, he shot 35%. He's a 55% regular season shooter because he's just going to finger roll like Wilt and make basket after basket. But Toronto said no. And last night, Miami, playing a lot of zone, just said, no, you can't come in here. And if you do, we're going to knock the ball out of your hands. And in the fourth quarter last night, Giannis goes 1 of 4, 0 for 2 from 3, 1 of 4 from the free throw line, and has 2 big turnovers. You're going to lose. He's your superstar. A lot of people think he's the best player in the game, and yet when it's time, I don't see it. I keep waiting, and I don't see it. Jimmy Butler always rises and shines in these kind of moments, in these kind of games. And obviously, a guy who doesn't score that much for this team just took it over down the stretch, and it was extraordinary. And then young Tyler Hero goes hero, and he makes the dagger 3, and that's who those Heat are, and that's why I believe the Bucks are about to be history.
Yeah, I picked Toronto to win the East, to beat the Bucks in the conference finals. Obviously, that's a round later. But you might be right, Skip, and I kind of felt the same way at the last minute. I said, you know what, I'm going to stick with the Bucks. But if you watch them, they don't play many close games. We know they had this. They won by an average of, 11 or 12 points a game in the regular season. They had the fewest close games of any team in the playoffs. But when you watch them, when they were in a tough game, Giannis was not the go-to guy.
No.
They go to ball movement because he doesn't have a go-to shot, a go-to move.
Right.
He's obviously not going to shoot the jumper that well, and you'll give it to him to shoot the J or shoot the 3. And on another note, this team kind of reminds me of LeBron in Cleveland, his first go-round before he went to Miami, where they were tremendous in the regular season. Remember, they won 66 games and then 61 games, and then they flamed out in the playoffs. Now, LeBron delivered. Unlike Giannis, LeBron never had these types of games that I remember where, like Giannis, and he never really got the help of 2 guys scoring 24-plus points and things like that. However, the supporting cast are similar. With all due respect to Middleton and Lopez and these guys, they're not ready for prime time. Middleton, as good as he is he's the second best player on a championship team, kind of like it was Antoine Jameson, Mo Williams, and, guys, the Gauskas, guys like LeBron had. Yeah. So it's a very similar situation. Now, here's the question. Everybody's wondering, is Giannis going to stay in Milwaukee? He could hit a point like LeBron where he's like, I got to get some help. If I'm going to win the championship, because now he's of that ilk. You mentioned the awards, Skip, with Jordan and Olajuwon. He's hit that level where every year he doesn't win his first championship, it's going to be more and more pressure on him. And then we're going to stop looking at him as being so great and start criticizing him more. And so that's where the pressure comes to maybe go elsewhere or something like that.
Well, he's definitely not going to get anybody to come join him in Milwaukee. So you can forget that.
Right.
So he's going to have to go somewhere. And as you mentioned, like LeBron in Cleveland the first time around, so what did they do? Well, we're going to keep LeBron butt out the paint. Now, I believe LeBron can shoot the ball at this stage better than Giannis could. But they say, you know what? Varejao, Ilgauskas, you other guys, if you want to make shots, have at it. And sometimes Bron was still going for 40, and they still couldn't win. So they're definitely not going to win if Giannis only has 18. But like you said, I'll concede that to Brook Lopez. I'll give him his 25. I'll have at it. I just need to keep Giannis 35 and 15, that 40 and 18. I can't let him do that. And as long as you don't let him do that, you make him shoot jump shots. If you want to shoot three, you want to go 5, you can go 5 or 7 from the three-point line. Can you go 12 or 15 from the free throw line? Well, Giannis, y'all gonna win. But you're not gonna Euro step and dunk and lay the ball up, finger roll it. You're not gonna do all that. The little baby, little 8-footer, that's not happening. Good luck outside the paint.
So one last point. If, in fact, this is the Defensive Player of the Year, this is just me, and maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but I don't see the takeover intangibles in Giannis where he's like, I'm going to get us home in this game. I wanted to see him just a couple of trips say, I got Jimmy Butler. Again, I know he's taller than Jimmy.
Yeah, he's more of a help defender than Skip.
But listen, he's so long and he's so athletic. If you're that guy, you say, when Jimmy is going buckets, buckets, you just say, this time I got him. Because you can go out and just, with your length, you can bother him or you can shake him up because you're out in his face. One time, I don't see that from him. If he's only a help defender, how is he the defensive player of the year?
They asked him that question last night. He got upset. Yep. So he's going to be upset that you mentioned that because they asked him why when Jimmy got it going. He's like, they do what he did, what the coach was asking him to do.
The coach says. Well, that's not the leader of the team. That's not a guy who says, I got this. No,
yeah, you got to take on that responsibility. If you're the leader, because we've seen LeBron, I've got, at every stop, LeBron, I got him. You see Kawhi, I've got him. I guarantee you, if Giannis had it going, Jimmy Butler gonna say, hey, Smoke, I got it.
He would.
No mercy.
The Thunder, led by Chris Paul's 28 points, locked down a 104-100 win last night against the Rockets to force a Game 7. James Harden led the Rockets with 32, but went 3 for 11 from beyond the arc. Houston had a chance to tie or take the lead with under 10 seconds left, but Russell Westbrook turned the ball over on a bad pass to effectively clinch the game for OKC. Chris Broussard still with us. Chris, did the Thunder win it, or did the Rockets lose this one?
I was on First Things First earlier this morning, and I praised Chris Paul. And he was tremendous. Look, he's the best clutch player this season in the NBA, and he certainly was that last night. He was terrific. 8 of their last 12 points, 14 points in the fourth quarter. But all that said, when you have the most talented team, in most cases, when you have the most talented team, when you've got 2 Hall of Fame superstars versus 1, then if you lose, it is typically your fault. And I think that was the case last night with the Houston Rockets. Obviously, we can jump on Russ. He was just bad all night. He had 2 turnovers in the last 90 seconds, missed the layup, threw up an air ball, all of that. But I also have to look at Mike D'Antoni. And we know Mike D'Antoni does not make many adjustments, right? If you're shooting a 3 and you miss 15 straight, you miss 18 straight, he's going to tell you to keep shooting. Don't go inside. Don't drive. Don't get a mid-range shot. Keep shooting the 3. And that has often been his demise. And last night, instead of playing the game, he sees Russ is struggling. All right, it's not his night. They're down early. They're down 6 early in the fourth quarter. He takes Russ out for 3 minutes. The Rockets go on a 12-3 run to turn that 6-point deficit into a 3-point lead. He puts Russ right back in, almost as if he's not watching the game, but just because now it's time to put Russ in. I understand you usually let your stars close, and I'm not saying you couldn't put him in at the end, but let it play out a little more. See if you can ride this run a little further and put the game out of reach. He didn't do that. He goes to Russ, and the rest was history. Now, look, at the end of that game, their last possession, they're down 102-100. The biggest Russ fan, and I like Russ. I usually defend him. But the staunchest Westbrook fan knows his late game decision-making is a problem. So why is the ball in his hands instead of James Harden's? I know Harden's had his moments too in the playoffs, but I would much rather have the ball in his hands than in Russ's. So I think as much credit as I want to give OKC, I think Houston killed themselves in this game.
Yeah, but for me, I'm going to stick with your original point. I gave Chris Paul the credit because when they have the ball, when the Rockets have the ball up 6 with 4 minutes to go, and I'm like, they're done. Because as you said, they had the lead, and the Rockets ate that away in a matter of no time. And the next thing you know, I'm like, well, okay, you had a great run, but now it's over. And Chris Paul started dancing. He's like, hey, he had to put on his nice shoes, his nice outfit, and say, come here, James Harden, dance with me for a second. Covington, come over here at the elbow, dance with me for a second. And then he backed out beyond the 3, almost stepped out of bounds, and as he hit the 3, he runs by and pops Covington on the butt. And I'm like, uh-oh, y'all might be in trouble, Rockets. And I think the thing is that you mentioned that Russ in that situation, James Harden is supposed to have the ball. You have to understand Russ has been away for 2.5 weeks. He's trying to find a rhythm, trying to get his conditioning back. And you put him back in there as if he hadn't missed a beat. I wouldn't have done that, but Chris Paul was sensational. And you mentioned his clutch buckets down the stretch. And he said something very interesting. He said some people built for these moments. Some people shy away from it. Skip, you like basketball, but you covered a lot more football. You've seen a lot of guys go up and make spectacular catches in the first 3 quarters, but let it get late in the ball game. And all of a sudden, man, it was just, I should have caught. No. Make the catch in the fourth quarter late in the ball game like you made in the first 3 quarters. Chris Paul in the fourth quarter was magnificent. And if he wasn't, even with those turnovers, even as bad as Russ played down the stretch, if Chris Paul isn't great, they still don't win that game.
Yet, Mr. Sharpe.
Yes.
Even though it is rare that you see a player take over a game down the stretch the way Chris Paul did on both ends of the floor. Because he stole it from James and he stole it from Russ. And then the last play, he just stole, he took over the last play, and he was the one that ran Russ out of the lane, and then he's going out to cover Covington.
Yeah.
I've never seen such an imprint as what Chris Paul put on that game. Obviously, he's got it in for the Rockets. He wants to show the Rockets, and unfortunately, not for the benefit of Houston, Russell Westbrook wants to show Oklahoma City, I can do this back to you. Mm-hmm. And look, this is just me. Bottom line, Russell Westbrook lost that game last night. And my point is, I believe the Rockets are better against the Thunder without Russell Westbrook. To Chris's point, you can just see what happens when he goes out of the game, because it's just 1-to-1 then. It's 1-on-1 with James Harden going against Chris Paul. And right now, the Rockets play better team basketball against a team like Oklahoma City, an overachieving team, without Russ in the mix. Well, you saw what happened in the first 3 games of the series. Houston wins big in game 1, big in game 2, and had game 3. And if Daniel House had hit the second free throw, they're going to be up 3-0. That's no Russ. Now, if somehow Houston survives game 7 and goes on to the Lakers, they need both their superstars. They need star power versus LeBron AD star power. But in this case, Russell just plays completely out of control against his former team. And last night, he turned into Russell east, west, north, and southbrook. He was going 1,000 miles an hour in every direction, and I couldn't watch it after a while. And if we can see the final play, D'Antoni said it was up to he just sits back, whatever you guys want to do. Right. It's up to James and Russ. They decided, let's run this play. You did? You wanted to run this play? This is just craziness because James is trying to pick for Russell. And it's a traffic jam of defenders in the middle of the lane. There's nowhere to go. Russell has no plan. He leaves his feet with the ball and decides, oh, maybe somebody's trailing and I'll throw it out of bounds. Right. And the game's over. And I thought he had one last chance to redeem himself after 6 turnovers already and the air ball and all the disaster plays. And instead, they don't even get a shot in the end. And it's Russ's fault. So bottom line to this game, remember, Houston's up 6 with 4:19 left. Up 6.
And they got the ball.
And they got the ball, and they give up a 16-2 run to close the game. That's just wrong when you got 2 superstars, but one of them got in the way of the other one.
Well, I think the thing was, if you look at Chris Paul, what he does, Skip, this play, what they're trying to do reminds me of the Villanova, North Carolina, where the guy brings it up and the guy that took the ball out of bounds shoots the 3. Okay. If you look at Covington,
that was a call play.
But it looks like Covington is coming to the top of the key to shoot the 3. Because if you look at Chris Paul noticed, like you said, he was in this system. If you look at Chris Paul, he disregards. Look at in the corner, P.J. Tucker. He said, forget P.J. Tucker. Yep. And he goes right now to Covington. But looks like Covington is coming to the top of the key to shoot the 3.
Chris Paul stopped Russ's drive and went out and covered just in case he caught the pass.
Right.
Covington.
Yes.
Maybe, but it doesn't look like Russ has any plan at all to really give it back. That was like a last-second thought of, uh-oh, I'm up in the air with nowhere to go. I better dish it back.
Well, because Harden is standing there like, I thought Harden was going to set the pick and then Harden get the ball back. But he doesn't even look at Harden.
No.
One of the challenges with Russ, he's always been the strongest personality on his team and on the bench, right? Like Kevin Durant, one thing used to bother him in OKC was, at the end of games, Russ is taking the ball as much as he's giving it to Durant or even more, right? And Durant, instead of going to Russ himself, give me the ball, this is my time, he wanted the coaches to do it. And Scott Brooks and the other guys weren't strong enough in their personality to tell Russ to do that. And that drove Durant crazy at times. Same thing here. D'Antoni doesn't want confrontation. And I don't know how it has to be that confrontational, but he's not going to tell Russ, give him the ball. And Harden, who's a stronger personality, Harden or Russ? Who's going to go to Russ and say, give me the ball? Nobody. And that is part of the problem. And look, if they lose this series, I'm with Skip. They need Russ, obviously, and they got a better chance of beating the Lakers with Russ. I don't think they would beat them, but they can make it tougher on them with Russ. If they lose this series, though, think about what just happened. They were 2 games away or maybe a blown hamstring away from probably winning a championship in 2018. And then they trade, Paul for Westbrook. Remember, as bad as Chris Paul's contract was, Westbrook has an extra year at nearly $48 million a year on that deal. What does this mean for Daryl Morey if they lose this series? What happens to Mike D'Antoni? And if you bring in another coach, how's he going to fit Westbrook and Harden together? So if they lose this series, you can't overstate the possible ramifications of this.
Well, but you're going to be stuck with this roster because you don't have any bigs. You traded Capella. So now your tallest guy is 6'7.5" Covington or 6'8" Covington. So what are you going to do? But Kevin Durant should have said, hey, James Harden should have went to, hey, bro, let me get that. Let me get that off your hand. Let me get that rock off your hand. I mean, you got, hey, Chris, you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to be confrontational, but you can like, hey, bro, I'm going to get that. That last one, let me have that.
So, Chris, who you got in Game 7?
Well, I picked Oklahoma City in 6, just, before the series. So, obviously, we always want our pick to be right. I'm going to go with OKC because I think if it's close, they were the best clutch team in the league this season, and Houston is going to have problems in a close game. So, I'm going to go with OKC.
I've been riding with these two all year. I've been rooting for them. I still think Houston just better than Oklahoma City, and they're going to win Game 7 somehow.
Chris, you know why Skip is because he wants somebody because he's already got in his mind that the Rockets with James Harden and Russ can take down the Lakers, and he doesn't want OKC because he thinks the Lakers would run through OKC.
It would be Portland all over again.
So don't let him fool you.
You know, I tend to agree. Like, I don't think OKC has a prayer. I think the Lakers would beat Houston too, but I'd much rather watch the Houston Lakers series. So I just think there's not going to be any jazz in the series with OKC.
We'll have to see.
Go James. He on one. You saw the last 3 games, Chris. You seen the last 3 games, Chris
Talking about
Broussard.
this series. Come on, let's let Game 7 play out first, Shannon, before you get ahead of yourself. Chris, thank you. You gave us some good stuff to think about. We'll check in with you later this week.
No mercy.
How about this, guys? Fox NFL Sunday is back September 13th with a great slate of early games. Then it's a blockbuster in America's Game of the Week as Brady and the new-look Bucks take on Breeze and the Saints. Check local listings for the games in your area or watch it on the Fox Sports app. How about we talk about that guy, Tom Brady? The new book, The Dynasty, continues to pull the curtain back on Brady during his Patriots run and just how close he was to leaving New England in 2018. The book states, quote, Kraft knew that Belichick's methods were grinding on Brady. Kraft then attempted to clear the air by inviting both of them to his house. But according to the book, the distance between them was obvious. Kraft also met with Brady and Giselle, where Giselle expressed her frustrations to Kraft over how Belichick still treated Brady like, quote, Johnny bleepin' Foxborough. I love that quote. Shannon, does this surprise you?
No. And before I get to the crux of my argument, I want to know why Tom Brady pillow talking. Why is he discussing what's going on at work? That ain't what we do. We don't do no pillow talking.
What are you talking about?
He pillow talking, Coach Belichick. Coach Belichick cursed me out today. He put me on blast in front of the team, baby.
This is reported in a book.
Whoa.
It didn't come from Tom Brady. How do you know it came from Brady?
Whoa.
What if it came from Robert Kraft?
Stop it. Tom Brady pillow talking. He pillow talking, and you know it, Skip Bayless, and you trying to justify your pillow talking.
Maybe Giselle pillow talk.
Well, she wasn't at practice, unless she had practice now. But, Skip, I'm not surprised by this. I've been trying to tell you this all along. And what's happening here, Tom, you don't get to say you were thinking about leaving in 2018. Coach Belichick had already tried to serve you divorce papers. So you can't say, oh, I'm getting out of this marriage. Nah, he served you first. Tom Brady never had a problem with Coach Belichick's methods until they came and sat on his door. Because he did it to Lawyer Malloy. He did it to Ty Law. He did it to Richard Seymour. He did it to Willie McGinnis. Oh, you thought because, you were Tom Brady, it wasn't going to come to you. Because let me tell you what happened, Skip Bayless. Take that name off the back of the jersey. And this is in line with Coach Belichick normally does. As a player starts to age, he sees some of his production starts to slip, Coach Belichick moves on. But you can't get past the name on the back of that jersey. That's why it hurts so much. Coach Belichick has always been like this. From day one, he has not deviated. He does not allow himself to get close to players because he realizes there's going to come a time that I'm going to have to release you or I'm going to have to trade you. There's a reason why in the military, there's a reason why they don't have higher-ups fraternizing with subordinates. Because there might be a time, Skip, I'm going to have to send you into conflict. And if my judgment is cloudy, it's going to affect whether or not I'm able to do that effectively. So Coach Belichick says, I'm not going to get close to Tom Brady. I'm not going to get close to no D lineman, no O lineman, no linebacker, or anything. So I'm not surprised. And Mr. Kraft was trying to be Switzerland as best he could. He tried to stay neutral, Skip. But at some point in time, he was going to have to make a decision. He was going to have to cross the line one way or another. He was going to have to side with Coach Belichick, or he was going to have to side with Tom Brady. That was his only choice, Skip. There was no other way around it. We've been talking about this since Seth Wickersham wrote that. And I'm saying, Skip, that this is happening. And you saw it happening right before your eyes. And so, no, I am not surprised by this, not in the least. This is who Coach Belichick is. Coach Belichick is. And if you think he was going to be any other way with Tom Brady, because Tom thought and you thought Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls, he should be able to go out whenever we want to. Coach Belichick says, you know what? I put this together. Tom Brady is not staying up late at night while he pillow talking and telling what I'm doing to Giselle. Me and my staff is trying to put together the best roster, the best future players that we possibly can. So, no, I'm in charge. Get to stepping.
You can talk all you want about Lawyer Malloy and Richard Seymour. This is the GOAT you're talking about.
Take the name off the back of the jersey.
It's the GOAT.
Take the name off the back of the jersey. You can't. You can't do it, Skip.
It's number 12. It's the greatest quarterback who ever played, and he's treated like that. That was Giselle's point, and she's right on the money.
Yes.
She's throwing it right in his face, in Robert Kraft's face.
Yeah. Take that Coach Belichick.
This is the most extraordinary battle for credit this side of Jerry versus Jimmy in Dallas.
This might be more so.
Well, I was going to say, the magnitude here is so much greater because Jerry fired Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, after they had won back-to-back Super Bowls together, and he finally just couldn't take Jimmy anymore because Jimmy wouldn't give him enough credit and wouldn't treat him with any respect behind the scenes.
Right.
In this case, this went on for much longer at a much higher level because, remember, this was after the 2017 season Super Bowl, the one in which Brady had cut his hand open on a handoff. You say it was something in a home accident. What's your take on it? But they sewed his hand up. They did surgery on his hand. He beat Jacksonville, come from 20-10 down in the fourth quarter with 138 yards passing and 2 touchdowns to lead them back to that Super Bowl. 2 weeks later, he throws for 505, an all-time playoff record for any playoff game. They give up 41 to Nick Foles and lose 41-33.
Correct.
And remember, that was when Tom Brady came out here to do a conference. It was a paid gig, obviously, in Santa Monica. And Jim Gray did the moderating and asked him, do you feel the appropriate gratitude from Belichick? And he threw in Robert Kraft. And Brady said, I plead the fifth, which was about the most shocking thing I'd ever heard Tom Brady say because he says next to nothing publicly. And then Jim Gray asked him, are you happy? And Tom Brady said, I have my moments. Well, this is right in this period in which they're going to war behind the scenes. They're having these nightly mediations at Robert Kraft's house, one between Brady and Belichick, where they sat on kind of opposite sides of the room, and he tried to talk them both down off their positions to see if we can do this again. Well, they did do it again after Belichick had tried to trade him at the trade deadline, obviously forced to trade Jimmy G, gave him away to San Francisco out of spite, I believe, for a second-round pick. But remember, after that, the next year, Tom Brady went to Mahomes' house and completed 3 straight 3rd and 10 passes in overtime at Kansas City to get them to a Super Bowl. They won. Now, finally, the defense came to play in that Super Bowl, and it was more defense than offense. But Brady did direct a game-winning drive, 5 for 5, in the middle of the fourth quarter to win that game. So it kept paying off for Robert Kraft that he barely kept them together. But to me, I've told you from the start, 75% of the credit, in my view, goes to the quarterback over the coach. But the coach believes it's completely the way you see it.
I know he does.
So the coach feels like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going on 70 years of age. I deserve the opportunity, which he's got now. I'm going to go win one by myself. I don't need you anymore. So you go wherever you want. I'm going to get the credit for this. I'm going to get full credit for this one. Whether it's with Cam Newton or Jared Stidham or Brian Hoyer, I'm going to get the full credit.
Skip, what's so unusual about this is that the fact that Mr. Kraft says, you know what, I'm going to break. Because normally, Skip, you might have a feeling, but once you get into a room with that person, you start talking and you're like, you know what, we're more alike than different. And, you know, we got common.
No.
But they stayed on their platform.
They stayed.
They stayed with their so in other words, I gained that. Nobody moved from their position.
So I love how Giselle, she always defends her husband. She'll fight for him. She wanted to fight after that one Super Bowl, the second Eli Super Bowl. She's coming down the elevator. Somebody said something about her husband, and she wanted to throw down.
Oh, remember, and that was the one that Wes Welker dropped the pass, and she said he can't throw and catch. I'm like, whoa, Giselle!
Touche. So I got to tell you, I love this line. She's saying, how can you, after all these years, we're all the way up to post-2017 season, it's 5 Super Bowls out of 8 at that point. How can you continue to treat my husband like Johnny effing Foxborough? I love that. like just some guy, like some guy from Foxborough.
Right.
Because in film sessions, he's still, to use her word, you're undressing Martin, so to speak. You know,
Right.
you're just ripping him to shreds
Right.
in a film session, and you're treating his trainer, who's Alex
Right.
Guerrero,
Right.
who's liability.
Right.
You're treating him like an outcast. Remember, he threw him off the team plane.
Right. Skip, and for me, and this was always I was like, I can't believe this. Because in all my years, I've never even quarterbacks that weren't of Tom Brady's caliber, but I only played with one. John Elway was a franchise superstar quarterback. But I've never heard a coach talk to a quarterback in front of the team like Coach Belichick was willing to do Tom Brady. That was the thing that shocked me, because I had never heard it, never seen it in all my 14 years.
Okay.
I have been around players they had never heard or never seen it. Only there was that possible.
I think Dan Reeves was hard on John.
Yeah, but not
like that.
No, not in public, Skip. He's like, God dang it, John, something like that. But to put on a film and say, John, you made a mistake. John, what the hell are you doing?
In front of the team?
What?
You can't do it.
Man, John.
Nobody's ever done it.
No.
And again,
No.
Belichick just didn't do it for the first 2 years. He's doing it into years, what, 16, 17.
Skip, and I think Brady was accepting of that, Skip. He was like, you know what? I'm a 6th-round draft pick, won a couple of Super Bowls. But, Skip, as you get older, you're like, hold on, wait a minute. You're still talking to me like I'm a rookie. You're still talking to me like I'm a 3rd-year guy. And at some point in time, he just should have, what he should have done is just go talk to Coach Belichick. Say, Coach, I understand what you're trying to do, but what you're doing is really not effective to me. It's not helping me. It's not motivating me. Actually, it's making me dislike you. I mean, just like you said, you said Kevin Durant should have talked to Russ and other guys should have talked to Russ. I believe that's what Tom did. That's what I would have done.
Yeah. Okay. So guess what? The game is on. Belichick versus Brady, long distance. Tampa versus Foxborough. Here we go.
Hey, but I tell you what, I bet he won't get no calls like Jimmy G. Oh, Jimmy G be getting them calls. Good job, Jimmy. Good job, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's true. Text. Yeah.
You think you gonna call Brady?
I don't think so.
Brady probably to change the number. Say you can't. Got him on block.
Sure, he's changed his number. There will be no communication there. Their relationship will always remain so fascinating to me, what they were able to achieve, given their differences.
No mercy.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is expected to win a 2nd straight MVP award for this season. Giannis has already won Defensive Player of the Year and would join Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon as the only players to win both in the same season. However, Giannis and the 1-seed Bucks find themselves down 0-1 for the 2nd straight series after losing to the Heat last night. So, Shannon, is Giannis overrated?
No, he just had a below-average game yesterday, Skip. Basically, in the regular season, he was 30, 14, and 6. And in the playoffs this year, he's 30, 16, and 6. Skip, those are Shaq numbers. He's a dominant player. He had an off day, and it's easier, Skip, when you get to the playoffs if you're just on an island. Because as Chris Middleton is an all-star, we don't look at Chris Middleton as a superstar. We don't look at him as an Anthony Davis. If you look at LeBron, once he got Kyrie, it became a lot more difficult for you to take LeBron away because you had to worry about Kyrie cooking you. When he went to Miami, you tried to take LeBron away, he had D-Wade. So if you have a 1-2 combo, and that's what Shaq had with Kobe, a young Kobe, and I don't think anybody's going to confuse and say, well, Chris Middleton is Kobe. No, he's not. He ain't going to ever be Kobe. So for me, Skip, they built the wall. They said, Giannis, you're not coming in here. They just slammed the door, so shoot over the door. You do everything you need to, but you're not coming in here. This little area out here is stay out of, caution. So that's what they're doing. But I don't think Giannis is overrated, Skip. I mean, he's freaky. I mean, 7 foot tall with a 7'3" wingspan, athletic, 2 dribbles from half court. He's at the rim, and he's getting better. He's gonna be the MVP, Skip. I think we all agree on that. A 2-time MVP. There are very few people that have won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. I think there have only been 3.
3. Jordan, Olajuwon.
And David Robinson.
No.
Well, 4 now. David Robinson won Defensive, not in the same year.
Not in the same year as Jordan and Olajuwon.
So and Olajuwon ended up winning the championship that year also. Yep. So, Skip, you're talking about only 4 people total will ever have won an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year. That's the company that Giannis is in. He's had a bad first game. But let's not write him off. Let's not, put too much into it. And even last year, Skip, he was 25 and 12, in the playoff run. So 25-12, you like, but now he's superstar times your MVP. You get judged a little different than this just being Giannis Antetokounmpo. You get judged by Greek freak. And so the criticism is a little bit more harsh.
So I guess mine's going to be over hard. But you know how I feel about the NBA playoffs. This is when you make your rep and your money.
Yeah.
You got to do it now. All those long stretches of regular season dominance, all that PER print stuff that we used to see from Anthony Davis when he was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it from Giannis now. They remind me of each other, not in games, but in impact.
Well, Skip, they say superstars are made in the regular season. Legends are made in the postseason.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
So we'll find out. We're about to find out.
I haven't seen legendary from Giannis in the postseason. And I thought about this because it reminds me, Anthony AD in New Orleans, he never could lift that up. He was a sub-500 player in New Orleans. Well, he had some help here and there for a while. He had Boogie and he had Rondo, playoff Rondo for a while, and they won a series.
Right.
And yet, now you put him alongside your man, you got something.
Right.
Where he's a little more in his comfort zone. LeBron can put him in a basketball comfort zone. And obviously, he is a far better shooter than Giannis has so far even thought about.
Yeah, I don't know if Giannis will ever be able to shoot the ball like that.
Like that? So what if you put Giannis alongside LeBron right now? What if you swapped out? You put AD up there in Milwaukee pretty much by himself. What would the result be? Could Giannis and LeBron go places? Could they win a championship together? Maybe, but you got one big problem. AD is a free throw making machine.
Right.
And Giannis is not.
Right.
He's a sub 50% free throw shooter, and it seems like the deeper you get in the playoffs, the worse he gets. Okay, so could he take the spotlight? Could he share the limelight with LeBron James? I just need to see, again, something more than what we saw the last 4 games. We saw him last year against Toronto. They lost 4 in a row after they went up 2-0.
Right.
In those 4 games, look at the fourth quarters. They're all close games.
Right.
Here we go again. In the fourth quarters, he shot 35%. He's a 55% regular season from the field shooter because you can't say he's a freak.
Right.
He's finger rolling.
Yeah.
He's scoring at will in the lane because during the regular season, people don't play him the way they do in the postseason.
Right.
And from the free throw line, last year in those 4 fourth quarters, he was 5 of 13. Well, that's horrendously bad. It's not enough free throws, number one, and it's not enough makes, number two. And he was a minus 29 total plus minus in those 4 fourth quarters. They lost all 4 games, and then it happened again last night. Fourth quarter, he goes 1 of 4, 0 for 2 from 3. He was trying to do something to open up the lane, obviously. 1 of 4 from the free throw line, and he had 2 turnovers. And the last one came, that it was pretty hopeless, but 50 seconds left, they're down 7, maybe a quick bucket, maybe you get back into it, and he tries to wheel into the lane, and Dragic is just picking his pocket. He's just waiting on him. I got this, and they go the other way, and it's over.
Well, Skip, the playoffs will tell you just how special you are because that team focuses all their energy on you. They don't have to worry about playing LeBron the next night or Kawhi in 3 nights or Kevin Durant 3 nights later or James Harden in a week. It's all you. It's just like playoff football, Skip, because, you know, yeah, I'm watching the game, but then I got another game the next week. When I come to playoffs, guess what? I'm looking at all 16 games that you played in the regular season. I know all of your tendencies, what you're going to do in this down and distance, this area of the field, this formation. I know all of that backwards and forward because you've done it so many times. Well, come playoff time, guess what? When you get to the playoffs, you're going to do what you've had the most success doing. And so I'm studying. So what do I know if the best way to beat the Bucks? Keep Giannis' butt out the lane.
Okay.
Make Chris Middleton. Make Brook Lopez. Make those other guys beat you.
Here came Toronto, well coached, Nick Nurse, a lot of length.
Yes.
Mentally tough, physical players. Let's line them up across shoulder to shoulder. You can't come in here.
Yeah.
What you got? Show me. You better have a.
Make that 15-footer.
You better have it. You better have something to break up the wall. Right? You better shoot over the wall. Everybody else has got that weapon. Anthony Davis has definitely got that weapon. Okay? And if you can't get over the wall? Can you sort of break through it and get fouled and get to the free throw line?
Well, if you can't jump over, you better be able to shoot over it.
Okay. But what I'm saying is you can sort of run into the wall and get fouled maybe if you get some calls.
But Skip, yesterday, he got 2 charging fouls because he's trying to run over it.
I know it. Okay. Even if you get to the line, you are a liability at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the grand total I see here? You're overrated, given the fact you just did something only Jordan and Olajuwon have done before you. And we talked about this before, but if Jimmy Butler is going Jimmy Buckets on you, I told you, if you're that guy, a takeover guy, a special, like an all-time great on the rise, you say a couple of possessions, I got him, I'll take him.
Skip, but when I look at Giannis, I don't look at him as a great on ball. I look at him as help. Remember yesterday when he blocked Jimmy's dunk?
He did.
He came, Jimmy didn't know he was there, and he came from the weak side to block that dunk. I don't look at him like Jordan and Pippen and Kobe and LeBron when he was younger. They could sit in the chair in front of a guy.
Okay.
I don't look at him like that.
Okay, but when I compare him to Rudy Gobert, former two-time
yeah.
He can move.
Yes,
He's got feet.
Yes,
He's got athleticism at, is he 7? I don't know if he's 7 feet.
What they listed, 6'11", yeah.
Right. But he has agility for his height and length. So I thought maybe a couple of possessions, he'd just go out there and sit in the chair and try to defend him with length.
See, when I look at, when I know he's won Defensive Player of the Year, and like you said, he and Jordan and Olajuwon, but he's not the defender Olajuwon was.
Olajuwon was about 6'10", maybe 6'9".
Yes. But on the defensive end?
Boy, I don't know. I think
You think he's a better defender than Olajuwon?
Well, he's just longer. He's better in the lane, like as a help defender. He's just so long.
Olajuwon was dead.
Hey, he was. I know.
And especially because, that was a big man era. Because you had Robinson and you had Shaq and you had Patrick Ewing. That was the era of the big man back then. Now, ain't really no bigs.
What I'm saying, with that length and size, you should be dominating.
Yeah.
You should be able to even.
But Skip, he's averaging 30, 16, and 6 in the playoffs. Okay. That's not dominating?
Well, I just told you what he was in the fourth quarter last night with the game on the line.
You Skip, I thought the one thing that you didn't want to be was prisoner of the moment.
Well, I've seen 5 straight moments.
Yeah, you know,
4 against. Well, I have 4 against Toronto and 1 against Miami.
What about this year against Orlando?
Well, what, the game 1 or
no, the rest of the game.
How did Orlando get in the playoffs to start with? Right?
Well, you have home field.
It's a home deal.
Home field advantage? That's how it works? Okay.
No mercy.
Russell Westbrook made a costly late turnover and scored 10 points fewer than his season average in the Rockets' loss to the Thunder last night. Expectations were high for Houston after trading for Westbrook last summer. And now the Rockets face elimination tomorrow night. So, Shannon, how big is Game 7 for Westbrook's legacy here?
It's huge, Skip, for the simple fact he has not made it out of the first round since Kevin Durant left. He's 5-13 in the playoffs since KD left.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, this is how we measure great players. You can be great, Skip.
Yep.
But and I think that's one of the things when we look at Karl Malone won 2 MVPs, Charles Barkley won an MVP, but they don't get the proper recognition because they didn't have the championship success that some of the other players of that era had. And that's ultimately how we measure, that's how we determine the great from the greatest. I mean, you Skip, and that's not to diminish Russ because I think he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He did what he did. He went 3 straight years with triple doubles. He won an MVP. But at the end of the day, ultimately, we measure greatness. What did you do in the playoffs? Because that's what you play for. You play for championships. At the end of every year, no matter what sport you play, they have a championship. Did you win it? How many times did you win it? Is ultimately how you're going to be judged. Skip, if you look at the Rockets, they've blown the lead in all 3 games in which they lost. They were up by 5 with 1 minute to play in Game 3. They didn't have Russ. They were up 13, third quarter. Game 4, no Russ. Up 6 with 4 minutes. They had Russ last night. But if you go back and look at Russ, Skip, he hadn't got out of the first round. And he hadn't played particularly well in big moments. And Kevin Durant left because too many times in these situations, you monk it up for us, bro.
Yep.
And I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
That is correct.
Because, unfortunately, Skip, when you play together for an extended period of time, my legacy tied to your legacy.
That is right.
Guess what? You tied to O'Shea now. All that what you done, you tied with me. So if you don't do it, we ankle. Yeah. If they throw you overboard, guess what? I'm right there with you. We going overboard. And Jenny in there too. So, hey, anybody go overboard, we all. Yep. So that's it.
All right, back to Russell Westbrook. I have tried for years to believe in this man as a basketball player. And I always get right to the edge of this cliff, and I can't quite take the leap because of what you said. Last year, he got humiliated and sent home by Damian Lillard.
Correct.
Remember that?
Yep.
And here we go again. It feels like, for the most part in this series, Houston has played a little better without Russ. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go double huge on Game 7 because, yeah, his legacy is on the line because this was the grand experiment, small ball, but it was also the James Russ experiment.
Right. They wanted this.
They wanted it, and they love each other, and I do believe they really love each other, and they've gotten along as well as anyone could get along with James and anyone could get along with Russ. These two have done it.
Yes.
They have coexisted beautifully until last night. That was a disaster. You're up 6 with 4:19 left, and you give up a 16-2 run down the stretch. And I start to question everything about you. And I've always wondered this about this man. And he plays with such heart and rage and passion. Is he playing for himself or for his team? Is he playing for stats or dubs? I don't know for sure. It's somewhere in the middle of that. Well, this is Game 7. You have to play to win.
Yep.
You have to make some sacrifice and coexist and blend with James and get this home against a team you should beat.
Right.
It's a well-coached team. It's a tough-minded team. It's a clutch team. So if you let it hang around and hang in, you're probably going to lose it. But if you flex all your muscles and use your heads correctly, you're just better than they are. And your team is mentally tough, too. It plays good defense, and it shoots a lot of threes, but it will make a lot of threes. So, to me, I need to see if he has the savvy and the guile and the vision to do what needs to be done to win Game 7 and get to the Lakers. Now we're talking. Now we got you two versus LeBron and AD. We've got some big theater here where you can make a big name for yourself. But first, you got to get out of the first round.
Exactly.
Against a team nobody saw coming.
No.
This was rebuild city.
Everybody thought it was rebuild.
Oklahoma City. And look at them now. They tied you in the regular season, and now they've tied you in a playoff.
Skip, I think the thing is for Russ is that he's going to have find value. Says, you know what? Even if I don't score 25 points and we win, I play good.
Yeah.
Don't cut down on the turnovers.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, Skip, don't just think this is tied to Russ. James Harden's legacy is tied to this one, too.
I do agree with you. And both of them have done magical things during regular season.
Absolutely.
Like revolutionary. They've both been revolutionary. It's playoff.
Yeah, because James has led the league in scoring, 3 straight years?
Yeah.
And led the league in assists. I mean, he's won an MVP. He's finished, second a couple of times. But the playoff success has eluded him. And, you're in an era now.
Yep.
We're going to see. Skip, this is huge for those two guys. If you lose, Skip, I believe this loss would do more damage to their legacy than any other loss in their playoff history, in their careers.
No mercy.
Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray have put on a show in the Jazz Nuggets series, each having 50-point games twice and stretching the series to Game 7 tonight and finally getting that primetime slot they were looking for. Guys, according to Fox Bet, the Nuggets are 1.5-point favorites. So, Shannon, who you got? Who wins?
I'm going to take the Nuggets, and I believe it's going to take a Herculean effort for whomever. I believe both guys could possibly go for 50, something we've never seen before. Yeah. But I believe it is going to take that in order for the Nuggets to win, and I believe it'll take that. Mitchell might have to get to 60 because he doesn't get a whole lot of scoring from anyone else. But I'm going to take the Nuggets. I'm going to say they win by 3, but I expect Jamal Murray to continue this hot streak.
So you remember I fought for Donovan Mitchell to win Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
His first year, obviously. And I love him and I root for him, but I'm not going to pick him tonight. If he still had Bogdanovich, a dependable second scorer, I'd go Utah.
Yeah.
It's 2-on-1.
Right.
And it's not only Joker, but it's a Jamal Murray, who now psychologically owns Utah to me. He just gets whatever he wants whenever he wants to get it. And he's, again, the 2 Game 7s he played last year, Jamal Murray, he didn't make 1 3-point shot. He made 5 for 5 in the fourth quarter the other night. So he's turned into somebody else, somebody new. A star is born, and I think he'll continue to outgun Donovan down the stretch. I agree with you. It'll be late, close, but I think Denver will win this.
I mean, Murray last 3 games, he's gone 50, 42, 50. Donovan Mitchell has 2 50-point games and just went for 44. So, I mean, this is what you want to see. I mean, two young guys, emerging guys, stars saying, I want to be superstars. When you talk about 2 guards, you know, you mentioned Dame Lillard and you mentioned these other guys. Hey, talk about us. And, hey, and this is what you need to do it on this stage, Skip. They're doing this in the playoffs.
I agree.
But unfortunately, Skip, somebody's going to lose, and their Herculean effort will be forgotten.
And somebody's going to lose the next round, too, to the Clippers.
Oh, you think so? Oh, you think so?
That's where the Clippers come into this thing. Guys, that is it for Undisputed. Enjoy that game tonight.
Jamal.
Good stuff, guys. We're back same time tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Have a good day.
No mercy. Shannon, skip the habit, 50